Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we have a lot to do today. We finally have that mechatronics engineer and scrapper. We've started to add automation around the colony, which is absolutely great because it allows our dupes to do other things, like digging and building. One project we have going right now is it's time to start sealing in the base. We have a couple of projects over here, digging this top little tunnel here. That way we can have access, so we can have easier access to build the insulated tiles here. We're going to bring our fresh oxygen from our brand new Rodriguez down into the colony as well. Only difficulty I've had is in the design. We have these point of interest areas that are kind of taking up a little bit of the space that we would normally block it in with a nice square. But I don't think it's going to work like that. I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to put the main planetoid transportation line up and down this area here. We have to avoid this vent here and then this vent here, but I still think there's enough room through here. Now, that is until we get to the point, and I completely missed a neutronium deposit, but right about here. And I believe we might be able to put all the exosuits into this chamber here. Step one to getting the exosuits is bringing the oxygen in. That way we can load all those exosuits up with oxygen. Then we got to build the suits, which takes a little bit of reed fiber, not a big deal. So let's at least get started on that. That's where our old textile loom comes in handy. Make it out of copper, easy enough. Wired up, and there we go. My original design was going to have the exosuit docks on this side, down through here. But with this point of interest building here, I think it would be probably better served here. Plus, it's more centrally located to the colony itself, so the dupes can actually get to it quicker. I don't know why I was thinking textile loom. It is responsible for making the cool vests, snazzy suits, and warm sweaters. Once we get enough reed fiber, we'll definitely churn out some more snazzy suits. But the method to the madness that we're looking for is the exosuit forge. And once again, wire it up. And this time we'll actually have the correct thing. Remember, we're now actually getting a ton of salt from the old desalinator, which is great because then our old rock crusher turns it into table salt. Look at all that nice table salt sitting on the mess tables. And we'll slow it down. And you notice that when dupes go to eat, they first salt it up. It's another adorable animation. And you'll notice here that if they eat salted food, they get yet another +1 to morale. Such a great little bonus for relatively no effort. We already have the salt coming in. So for the cost of some dupe labor at the rock crusher, turning salt to table salt, such a beautiful thing. Alright, it's time to bring down these gas pipes. I think we'll just do one to the right side of the colony, one to the left, and one to the center for the exosuits. We'll put a vent on each level, on each side. It helps keep that oxygen compressed and gets rid of some of this other gunk that's kind of forming here. There we go. We're going to have to do some modifications to the old hatch farms. Namely, put the tiles down low. And we have a little bit more sealing to do in the base itself. Ah, beautiful. The exosuit boards. Second time's a charm. Now, we have plenty of copper. Don't ever waste your iron on it. You make steel out of iron, so you don't need iron atmo suits. Right now, we have 13 dupes. I think we're eventually going to head up to 24, so might as well make 20 suits to start. That should be good. And over here, our little temporary industrial center is doing great. You can see here the polluted water for the venting is sitting at -12, and it's -16 over here. Now, this cool slush geyser's in dormant period right now, so in about 27 cycles, it'll kick back on and start cooling this all off again. With our giant polluted water tank up there, we don't really need this liquid pump in here to help feed the thimbleweed, which, remember, it wasn't really there to feed the thimbleweed. It was more a function of getting rid of polluted water earlier in the game. So we can remove all of this, fix the floor, and then we'll be able to get up here. Looks like we found another rancher. +3 to ranching, +3 to suit wearing. Not spectacular figures, but considering their traits are night owl and yokel, well, we're never going to need Max to do researching errands. And I figure it's about time we also throw a Dinobot into the mix. Welcome to the colony, Grimlock. Alright, I tried. Somehow working this into the base. I can't. It's too ugly. I've got to make some changes. Something important to keep in mind is that every once in a while, your desalinator needs to be emptied. Started noticing that oxygen wasn't actually flowing, and it's because our desalinator hadn't been emptied in a minute, because I'm still working on that project to make the base look better. Oh wow, that is so much better. So much cleaner. Now the base looks like it's ready to do some actual work. Oh, I wasn't going to be able to sleep if we would have left the base that way. It was just hideous. So I did end up deciding that this was going to be the entrance and exit to the base. I went that way for a couple of reasons. A, it has a bigger runway, so we can load up exosuit docks and eventually artifacts. And also because I didn't like the fact that the dupes were going to have to slow down to hop up this to come out of the base. While I'm sure it's not a lot, the difference in speed between them just running flat out right across, it's probably somewhat small of a difference for them to have to hop up here and then head out the door. With that being said, it's time to put on some exosuit docks. We'll start with 15 docks for now. Get them all loaded up with the oxygen here. Now, there's been many a discussion on what the best way to load these docks up with. I'm not crazy about entering down here because as dupes leave, they normally take the first suit that's available, which incidentally makes that the first suit to run out of oxygen, and so you want it to be the first one that gets oxygen. So I think this is probably the simplest and the best way to load your suits, to load your docks. Would love to hear some follow-on discussion in the comments though, because I know there's a bunch of different theories on what the best way is. We also added the little mesh tiles right here where the checkpoint's going to be, because invariably someone's going to pee and we want that liquid to fall down. I think we just found our second cook. Old Abe here's got +7 cuisine and diver's lung. The only bad thing is he can't do any attacking errands. I wonder if he knows he's cooking eggs and the flesh of our hapless hatches. I couldn't think of a better name for someone who doesn't like to do attacking but ends up cooking flesh all day. So welcome to the crew, Bone Crusher. Started to get a little bit of hydrogen in our oxygen. Come to find out, our backlog had gotten full. So we're going to add a second hydrogen tank here, and that will definitely clear everything out. Alright, the addition of the second hydrogen generator should definitely help. You can already see the flow is going much better. It's still a little bit more backlogged because these hydrogen generators are feeding into this battery box. Because this smart battery never really gets low enough, it doesn't tell these hydrogen generators to go off very often. I think with the addition of the second one though, this should help. Having the hydrogen generators connected to the power line that was running this whole thing doesn't work out at all. Came back a few cycles later, I was still getting a little bit of hydrogen in the oxygen. So what I've done is now disconnected it completely from the power grid, and it is just running this little lamp here. And already the hydrogen situation has gotten much better. Now everything will run as designed, and there won't be too much hydrogen backed up in the system. The great thing about having the lamp here is that whenever somebody comes and works to empty the desalinator, they're going to be doing it with the well-lit buff. Our Atmosuit docks are almost full. I want to get them nice and full before we start the business of putting the checkpoint on. And it looks like we're almost there. The last Atmosuit dock is finally filling up. I think it's about time to put some limitations on how the dupes are leaving the base. And there goes our beautiful Exosuit checkpoint. Now, in preparation for having the checkpoint up, we've done a couple of things. First things first is we sealed in the entire base. Remember, we used to have the ladder and the fire pole come all the way through. Now that's sealed up. Additionally, we do have some airflow tiles down here at the bottom, and this is for all the little leftover junk, like there's some chlorine in here. It'll eventually all float down to the bottom, and when it does, it should empty below the base. But with the Exosuit docks all finished up, I think it's finally time to do the business at hand, and that's to start on some beautiful automation. I think the first step is going to be automate our hatch farms. Now, you may notice I added additional hatch farm, and the reason why is because on omelets, each hatch farm is only producing enough food for 3 duplicants. So this will have us right as rain for 15 dupes. I also moved and added some incubators. You notice now that we have 8 incubators filled with stone hatchling eggs. 8 is a very specific number for what we have. The math works out as follows. When all of these farms are filled, there'll be a total of 40 hatches, and each hatch lives for 100 cycles. You can kind of estimate that in 100 cycles, you need to be able to produce 40 hatches. A hatchling egg inside of an unpowered incubator takes 20 cycles. So the math there is pretty easy. How many incubators does it take to produce 40 hatches in 100 cycles? And that answer is 8. Because each incubator is going to be able to produce 5 hatches in 100 cycles. And then the 5 times 8 is what gives you the 40. I know that's kind of like an around the elbow type of answer on why you need 8. It can definitely be confusing. I guess the shortest way to say it is you have 40 hatches, so you need incubators to produce 40 hatches in 100 cycles. And since each incubator can produce 5 hatches in 100 cycles, 8 incubators will be able to produce 40 hatches. Now on the automation front, some of the dupe work that we're looking to automate is the loading of the critter feeders from the storage bins. And that can be done with a simple auto sweeper. We'll add auto sweepers to each ranch, make sure that we power them up, and already we'll see a difference in how much dupe labor is required for all these hatches. Because now, instead of the dupe coming over to fill the critter feeder, the auto sweeper to do it for you. Which means we need to adjust some of the priorities. We still need the duplicants to fill these storage bins, but we don't need them to fill the critter feeders. So for that, we can reduce the priority down to 3. That way duplicants are less likely to do it. While they were busy building the auto sweepers, I wanted to talk about who you should let out of your base. In my use case, the only people that I don't allow is the cooks. I want the cooks to be inside the base, cooking all the time. The default door permissions are anybody can go through the left and anybody can come through the right. In other words, anybody can leave and everybody can come back. We don't want Prowl and Bone Crusher to be able to do that. But we do want them to be able to come back if for some reason they get out of the base. So we'll just make sure they can always have re-entry, but they can't leave. And this will also help because in the immediate step, we need to make sure they're not outside the base right now. And when we do get up to 2 cooks, I like to make sure that they're not on the same schedule or even close to being on the same schedule because I always want somebody cooking. So in order to make that happen, I think we're going to take Bone Crusher here and send them down to the next shift below. And now they're separated by more than just 1 or 2 tiles. Speaking of which, I need to get these renamed. Since we were hiring so many dupes, I had to add more schedules. But 7 shifts plus the default shift, that will give us plenty for the remainder of the game with our goal of 24 duplicants. Alright, now that they've completed the auto sweepers, there's other things that we can automate. Namely, getting rid of the eggs out of the hatch farms. As it stands right now, the duplicants come, grab the egg, and then deliver it to the egg cracker to make our omelets. And you may wonder, why are we still on omelets? Well, it has to do with our duplicant numbers. Remember, each hatch stable produces enough eggs to make omelets for 3 duplicants. With 5 hatch stables, that's 15 duplicants, which is exactly where we are. Now, when we get more dupes and we're ready to convert over to barbecue and start drowning our poor helpless hatches, when we switch them over, if you look at it, we'll have enough barbecue for 25 dupes. Because remember, each hatch stable can then produce enough meat for 5 duplicants instead of 3. So we'll probably sit on 15 for a little while until we can get our deep freezer and we have some significant cooling to be able to deep freeze our food. But we still need a way to get the eggs somewhere. And for that, we're going to use the old conveyor loader. Let's go ahead and make sure that we power them all up. And now we have to run the rails. Because they're going to be transporting the same goods, there's no reason why we can't have them on the same rail line. So we will literally just put one spine down here through the ladder system, and we'll have it drop the eggs off right next to the egg cracker. Then, whenever a duplicant needs to fill an incubator, all the eggs will be sitting here instead. With those finished, we can now go in here and just select critter eggs. Copy it all the way down. Whenever there's a critter egg, the auto sweeper will put them right in the conveyor loader, and they'll end up over by our egg cracker. This will free the duplicant from having to travel as far to grab the eggs. We don't have to worry about the duplicants not filling the incubators. Just because the eggs are going to be closer to the egg cracker still only has a priority of 5. Whereas all the incubators are on a priority of 6. So the eggs are guaranteed to go into the incubators before they go into the egg cracker. Now our next automation task has to do with research. If you remember, we've completed every Tier 1 and Tier 2 research. The next is the Tier 3 research. Well, Tier 3 research requires material science. And material science, if you remember, is done using rad bolts. And one easy way of getting rad bolts is using our beautiful shine bugs. But we're not just going to do it like this. We are going to go nuts. So the first thing we're going to do is start to tame these shine bugs. But before we can tame them, we need to make sure they have a source of food. Well, remember when I told you we're going to use some bristleberries again? Here we go. I think 2 hydroponic farms is going to be plenty for bristleberries. Should only be like 8 shine bugs being tamed in here. The 2 bristle blossoms are going to be plenty of food for them. You'll notice the shine bugs, they can eat bristleberry, gristleberry, or phosphorite. Well, we don't have an infinite supply of phosphorite, but we do have an infinite supply of water. And we can turn that water into food through the bristle blossom. Now all we have to do is throw in our grooming station. And now our ranchers will come tame these shine bugs. Now this is not a perfect shine bug farm, but it fits perfectly in our existing base and will definitely get us to where we need to go. Because what we're going to do is we're going to load this room right above it with all the shine bugs that we can manage. So I've set 2 incubators up for shine nymph eggs, which is going to be plenty to keep this stable populated. And then what we're going to do is add some beautiful automation. Throw down some beautiful auto sweepers. And what the auto sweepers are going to do is they're going to throw every last shine bug egg into this room. And as the incubators need shine bug eggs, they'll come in this room and grab them. Well, once we get some of these tamed, I'll show you the reproduction rate of these shine bugs, and you can see this little overflow area is going to fill up quick. Let's set up a nice little rail system. I've also hooked the berry blossoms up to the water. The water is coming from our tank down here. Until they get growing, I'm going to throw a few airborne critter baits just so these shine bugs don't end up starving. They're still wild, but it's going to take these bristle blossoms 6 cycles to produce 1 berry. So I want to make sure they have a little bit of food in the meantime. Now all I have to do is select critter eggs on these guys, and now whenever they lay an egg, the conveyor system will drop them off right here. And soon, we will have a ton of shine bugs producing a lot of radiation in here. And why is that important? because this is exactly where we're going to collect our rad bolts and do our materials study terminal. Now, while we're doing that, just because you don't have the tier 3 stuff to start doing your research doesn't mean you can't get ahead of the game a little bit. For instance, we've been sending the research team and doing all the tier 3 researches, and they've been able to complete them except for the material study. So for instance, we'll select solid control and wheeljack. He's going to go do the novice research and the advanced research and get that knocked out. By the time we are ready for materials research, the rest of the research is going to go very quickly. One of the disadvantages, you'll keep getting this missing research station alert, but that's a small price to pay to be that far ahead on your research. All right, we have a shine bug who is now tamed. Remember, shine bugs only have a lifespan of 25 cycles. But when they're tamed and groomed and happy, their reproduction rate is 67% per cycle. So that means they're going to be producing an egg in less than 2 cycles. So the way the math works out, every shine bug produces over 30. I think the math is 33 and a half eggs in its lifespan. That is a huge amount of eggs. With these happy boys' reproduction rate at plus 900%, they've already laid 3 eggs. Both incubators are full, and these are the shine bugs that'll end up coming back to the critter drop-off. And we've already got one in our material study area. We are up against a small problem. The rad bolt generators are very power intensive. And while I'm not necessarily worried about the 480 watts itself, you can see on our conductive wire here, our potential load maxes out at 6,285 on our power grid right now. It'll never get that high. It's just there's a lot of machines and everything in here, and if they were all running at the same time, it would be 6,285 watts. Once we start hooking up rad bolt generators at 480 watts apiece, it's going to require power being split off by a power transformer. So we're over on this side of the base, and we're throwing down a few large power transformers. And what we'll do is we'll send all of our power collection outside of the base to these transformers and then divvy it as needed. So this looks like it'll be a good power spine for our colony. Especially considering eventually we're going to tap into this natural gas geyser, and it's going to be providing us a lot of power as well. We've also started our steel production. And step 1 with that, as you know, is to get the kilns up. We're producing some refined carbon. We also, since we're over here, are producing some ceramic. Well, the great thing about the auto sweeper is it's taking the coal that we use for the coal generator and automatically putting it into the kiln for the refined carbon. And then we just added a storage bin here for clay, and it's throwing it in the kiln for ceramic. Gotta love the automation. Alright, so I changed my mind again. We're still going to keep up with this little construction project, because it's good that we dig this out anyways, but I realized I want the power spine to be along our main spine. So then I was thinking, well, how do I get the coal generator and everything and its power all the way over here? Well, I think the easiest way to do that is just to move the coal generators. So I learned something. I keep putting down these airborne critter baits to try to, feed them a little bit. I don't think they actually eat the little bait, or at least that the game counts it as. Now, luckily, they still have plenty of calories, and by then, the bristle blossoms will have produced. I think one way we can speed this up, because we're not guaranteed that the shine bugs are going to be over the bristle blossom. So why don't we just put a light over there? It's kind of a bummer that the shine bugs won't sit by the bristle blossoms, but hey, we got to do what we got to do. Alright, this is much better. Now our power spine will be able to ride the entire ladder when we go all the way up to space and all the way down to the magma biome. We actually have the power transformers in already, so we can load up some rad bolt generators. Let's see how 3 works once we get some shine nymphs in there. And with our new coal generator sitting on this side, it's time to plug it into our main power grid. And we can do this in a couple different places across the base using just some wire bridges and these power transformers. And once they get those hooked up, then we can probably start segmenting this off a little bit. We have 3 up here, but one of them is just running rad bolt generators. So we'll just say maybe top and bottom. And we'll separate it right here at the hatch farms. I had forgotten that we'd made all these snazzy suits. Now the only pain in the butt is you got to do this manually. Our dupes are going to start to live the good life with all of our automation and their snazzy suits. In the background, I was pumping all of the liquid out of this side of this tank here over here. That way we can continue on our main transport spine. And it's desperately needed because in order for folks to get over to our little temporary industrial area, they have to go up here all the way over, up, over again, and then down. Whereas it'd just be a hop, skip, and a jump if they could just cut through. And so that's why this is somewhat of a priority. That is much better. That cut the commute time down and by at least half. Okay, things may have gotten a little out of hand. So our shine bug experiment is a massive success. We got 8 shine bugs sitting in here. We got 4 bristle blossoms growing. And they produce a lot of eggs. I mean, we looked earlier, they got that 900% reproduction rate. And so in this stable, in this room here, we have 35 shine bugs and eggs. Now, you can see our rad bolt generators. Now, we moved them, and I'll tell you why we moved them in a second, but we already have 172 rad bolts in this one, 292 in that one, and 327 in that one. It's only going to get more and more. I mean, right now, the average tile in here, waiting on a save, is between, 120, 130. And this is only costing us a little bit of dupe time and 4 bristle blossoms. Additionally, I ended up putting the incubators in here. I needed a couple other spots to put in a couple of more stone hatch eggs, and the reason being is 8 is a perfect amount to keep them at 40, but we were still missing probably 4 or 5 before these things were full, and so we're not quite at 8 in each stable yet. So I moved the incubators in here because remember the shine bug goes for 25 cycles. Well, these things incubate in 5 cycles. Well, we only need 8. So that means 1 incubator is able to replenish 5 shine bugs. So hence the reason we had 2 incubators. But there's going to be some left over. And you know what happens when they're left over. They end up opening on their own and then the shine bug gets out. So I figured, hey, if the shine bug's going to get out, might as well get it out in our happy little rad bolt colony. Now, if you look really carefully, you may notice some nuclear waste. I may have invented a mini game. Because, unfortunately, while as much as I love this setup, you actually got to wait until the shine bugs are out of the way before you shoot rad bolts into the materials study terminal. We go to our research. We're finished with all the novice research and advanced research for all of Tier 3. So I was like, let's go ahead and start on the materials research. Well, apparently shine bugs can get hit by rad bolts. So we play this little game. I've got them all linked up to a signal switch. And we wait until they're out of the way. And then we shoot. Look at that. No shine bugs died in that shot. We select the next switch. It's very easy to go, oops. And not only did the shine bug die a horrible death, but it leaves a little bit of nuclear waste. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be walking in that, buddy. Another flaw with it is, as you saw, Wheeljack was in here working in the materials study terminal. I'd like to put him in some lead suits. And that way he can come in here and the massive amount of radiation, which is right now still mostly safe, But if you go over on the side where all the shine bugs are hanging out, it says a slight hazard. So I want to put them in a lead suit as soon as we get the materials researched. I mean, it's right there. Beautiful. Lead suit checkpoint, lead suit dock, lead suit pattern, everything you need. Unfortunately, we don't have any lead on the whole map. So we're going to have to take a trip here shortly and go get some lead to make sure that Wheeljack doesn't end up getting radiation poisoning. Doesn't sound like a good time for our faithful researcher. Another thing I noticed, because we don't have our infinite supply of igneous rock yet, we're going to get it. Remember, we have 3 minor volcanoes down here. 1, 2, and 3. We also have the major volcano up on the top of the map. So we're going to be good on igneous rock. But we started to get down to like 60 or 70. I was like, well, let's find out how much igneous rock we actually have on this planetoid. So we may have been digging a little bit. Now we're back up to 320 tons. And this is not even at all. So we're going to have some time to work on the volcanoes. Rest assured. Also behind the scenes, we finished our transportation spine. It goes from the very top of the planetoid all the way to the bottom. Well, at least to the non-magma portion of the bottom. So with that being said, I know we've got plenty of footage for another episode, and I apologize that the videos are taking a little bit longer to get out. And part of the reason why is because the mod I use for speed control, which helps me play the game a little bit faster so I can get more footage faster, is still considered out of date and has not been updated. So until that happens, each episode's normally taking me between 4 and 5 hours just to get the enough work out to have a quality episode. And then I got to turn around and spend a couple hours doing some editing. So it is taking me a little bit longer than normal. I'm still shooting for 3 to 4 episodes a week. So I do appreciate your patience. I'd love to hear what you think about today's episode. Let me know in the comments below if you have any recommendations, things you'd do different. And remember, we put the map coordinates in the description, and that way you can load this map up too and see what you would do different and see how different your colony would be. At the end of this series, which is a long time away, remember we're going to 2,000 cycles. I'm going to take all those colony maps that are sent to me, and we're going to take a look at them. I'm going to see what people have done different, and it's going to be a blast, just like today's episode was. I hope you had fun too. I'll talk to you soon.